All right, my friends, we are officially looking at our fifth hurricane of the 2022 Atlantic hurricane season, Hurricane Ian, approaching the Gulf of Mexico. And as of the data we are seeing today, it is not looking good for the west coast of Florida. With a term called rapid intensification in mind and being predicted for this storm, we could very well be seeing Hurricane Ian making landfall as a major hurricane. My friends, we are going to break this all down right here, right now. Let's go. All right, everybody, welcome back. It is September 26, 2022, 10:30 a.m., and we are officially looking at Hurricane Ian. Check it out. We are at 65 knots or 75 miles per hour, 981 millibars in pressure, and we are moving at about 14 miles per hour northwest. As expected, you can see right here the Cayman Islands. Ian has passed just to the west of the Cayman Islands, making its northwestern approach towards the west coast of Cuba. We talked about this the day before yesterday, talking about how Ian was going to pass between Cancun, Mexico, and the western edge of Cuba, but it looks like it's going to make some interaction with the western coast of Cuba, which is why you see that western edge right there in red. That is a hurricane watch warning. That basically means you are getting hit with a hurricane, and again, we need to recognize that letter M. That means major hurricane. That is anything over a category 3 or 111 miles per hour. We will get into all the charts and things we need to look at, but I want to read this to you very quick. As of Monday morning, Ian is centered just 80 miles west of the Cayman Islands and 250 miles southeast of Western Cuba. There is a strong agreement among the model guidance that Ian will quickly reach major hurricane status. That means rapid intensification. That means this thing's going from basically a hurricane or even previously a tropical storm to a major hurricane in a short period of time. This would be the second major hurricane of the season. We just had Hurricane Fiona, which reached category 4, and this might happen either tonight or even as early as Tuesday morning. A lot quicker than previously thought, and even quicker than just the video we made 2 days ago. And we even talked about the interaction with Cuba here, and it's even being said, and I agree with this, that this interaction is not going to do much to stop this hurricane or even slow it down. We could see these letter M's going all the way up to the west coast of Florida, which means Hurricane Ian could very well make landfall as a major hurricane on the west coast of Florida. As of right now, that is where most, if not all, the models are pointing. Again, there's always the possibility that there could be something in the atmosphere or some sort of jet stream change that will alter the course of Ian. We've seen it happen before, but as of right now, taking a look at all the available spaghetti plots, it is all about western Florida, possibly the Panhandle. It could take a little bit of a shift to the west. In fact, yesterday they had some of the landfalls taking place near Mississippi, Alabama, but then the new set of data brought it all the way back to the western coast of Florida. So we are looking at a high potential for a large hurricane to strike that western coast of Florida, possibly late Wednesday or even early Thursday morning. Again, there's a little bit of a hiccup going on here. I'm going to show you that on the charts. Hurricane Ian seems to almost stall out just along the west coast of Florida and then make landfall. So it's kind of weird how this is taking place. I want to get right into the time frame of possible landfall. Now, again, keep in mind, we are still 2.5, 3 days away, maybe a little more, maybe a little less than landfall. So it's hard to predict exactly when this is going to happen. And to be honest, we're really not going to know until Hurricane Ian is literally sitting right off the west coast of Florida when we're going to have an actual landfall. But the storm surge, the effects of Ian will happen way before landfall. Jumping into Tuesday the 27th, let's zoom in a little bit here. We could see Ian has already had its interaction with Western Cuba and already crossed into the Gulf of Mexico. This would be around 11 a.m. tomorrow. We're going to be looking at a major hurricane. Again, this could be a major hurricane within hours, even by tonight, let alone tomorrow morning. And this is where things get a little interesting. The models are going to shift a little to the west. They're going to shift a little to the east right before an actual landfall. So let's go to Wednesday the 28th and take a look at that. Hurricane Ian will be sitting off the west coast of Florida, about 70 to 80 miles off Cape Coral. And already you're looking at a category 3. That's 112 mile-an-hour winds right there. They probably will be higher at this point once those warm waters of the Gulf start refueling the storm after that little interaction with Cuba. And then we're talking hours here. This thing could hook into Florida. It could go straight up into the Panhandle. If we check the Ventu Sky data, we can go all the way to about 5 p.m. here. You can see it's kind of moving right up the coastline. So we're going to have coastal issues no matter what happens with this storm. And storm surge is one of the most important things with a hurricane besides the actual wind damage. And once again, to estimate that, we need the sapphire Saffir-Simpson hurricane scale. So again, if we are looking at a category 3 or category 4, again, category 3 is 111 miles per hour to 129, and then we jump to category 4. This thing 100% has the potential to reach a category 4. In fact, looking at the model intensity guidance chart, you can see a lot of these models bringing this into a category 4 just before landfall. That is 48 hours from now. If you line the chart up and you go straight up, a lot of these models have this as a Cat 4 within 48 to 60 hours from now. That is right when it's going to be next to the coast of Florida. And if we take that information and line it up again with the Saffir-Simpson scale, we are looking at 9 to 12 feet of storm surge, or possibly 13 to 18 feet of storm surge. That is absolutely incredible. That could possibly mean for Florida anywhere from Tampa down to Cape Coral, and even north and south of those areas. Again, we don't know where this thing is going to actually turn into Florida or where it's going to hit, but if we see this pattern of Ian riding the coastline, we could see these storm surges stretching hundreds of miles. And of course, wherever Ian makes landfall, that will get the brunt of the storm surge. This is why Florida is under state of emergency right now, and this is why evacuations more than likely will be taking place sooner than later. Now, one thing that is also not very good about Hurricane Ian is that it actually stalls out. So you are now looking at Thursday, the 29th at 8 p.m. So we could be seeing, if I switch back and forth, here is Wednesday the 28th at 8 p.m. and here's 24 hours later, this storm sits off the coast of Florida, just whipping up that warm water and staying strong as a major hurricane. And this is what we did not want to happen. If we were going to get hit with a hurricane, we want this thing to hit and then disappear. Now, this hurricane wants to sit off the coast for almost an entire day. We can show that a little bit here on the GFS chart here on Tropical Tidbits. As the storm approaches, take a look at this. Each one of these clicks is about 6 hours. So if I back up a little bit, you can see each time we click a new frame, that is 6 hours, 6 hours, 6 hours. And then as it approaches the coastline, look how it just stalls out and sits there for about 12 to 24 hours before making landfall right in the pocket of Florida. That is what's going to cause the biggest issues for Florida, is if this storm actually stalls out and just sits there. So the next set of data and info we get is going to kind of clarify whether or not that's going to take place. But look at that, 945 millibars as it approaches that western coast. Again, I can't stress this enough. When you match that up to the Saffir-Simpson scale, we are between Cat 3 and Cat 4 at that time. That is a very strong storm. This very well could be the strongest storm to hit Florida in a very, very long time. And that sounds weird because Florida is constantly getting hit by tropical storms and hurricanes. But in all reality, taking a look at the last 2 years of landfalls, this is 2020 and 2021, the strongest storm to hit Florida in the last 2 years was Sally, a Category 2, which kind of hit Alabama and Florida at the same time. And then we had Category 1 Elsa that also hit Florida. Besides that, it's been a few tropical storms, so no big landfalls for Florida in quite a bit of time. Very quickly, if we take a look at this animation here of our jet stream, this is currently what's going on in the upper atmosphere. The jet stream controls basically all the weather in the United States, or at least the direction it goes. You can see we're kind of dipped down into the central part of the U.S. Now take a look at this. As we move forward, the jet stream dip is going to be moving west to east as it always does, but it's also lifting, if you notice that. And then you see Ian right here. So as the jet stream is pulling up, it's actually pulling Ian with it into Florida. That's why we're getting that northern movement, and that's why the predictions are not really putting it out near Louisiana or Mississippi or Alabama. In a way, it's almost attached to the jet stream, and you can see each time we click, the jet stream lifts, and we see Ian getting pulled up into Florida with it. That is part of the science behind why this storm is going where it's going. But even with this information, it's still hard to predict where in Florida this thing will make landfall. We know it's going to be a Florida landfall unless there's some sort of drastic change in the forecast itself, which could easily change the path of this storm and bring it towards Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, or even the western panhandle of Florida. Nothing is set in stone when it comes to hurricane forecasting. That's why I always tell everybody to follow the information on a daily basis. Don't listen to one prediction or anyone predicting any sort of landfall. You need to follow this almost on an hour-to-hour basis. Once we pass the threshold of Cuba and Cancun and we're in the Gulf itself, that is the most important thing to do. You don't want to just assume that this thing is going to go exactly where it's showing right now, because every 12 hours we have a new set of data where it could shift 100 miles to the west, 100 miles to the east. It could change in strength. You never know. But right now, as we stand today, we are looking at Ian being a major hurricane before the interaction with Cuba. We're looking at it being a major hurricane after the interaction with Cuba. And then all the way through early Wednesday afternoon, major hurricane status. Again, that is Category 3 or above. And then Wednesday to Thursday is going to be interesting because they're expecting a stall out. This hurricane is going to sit here for almost a day. And depending on how close it is to the coastline of Florida will depend on how much it's going going to take as far as damage, storm surge, things of that nature. And the only thing worse than actually taking a hit from a hurricane is a hurricane stalling out over land or even the outer bands. That upper eastern quadrant is always the strongest part of our storms because of the counterclockwise spin. So wherever Ian is sitting at that time really needs to be aware of the direction and possible landfall of where this storm will be. I will bring you updates throughout the next few days and show you all the different changes that may take place, but as of right now, it is a pretty solid agreement that we are looking at a west coast landfall for Ian, possibly late Wednesday, maybe late Thursday. It's a big gap when it comes to that stall out effect that we're dealing with. And again, the cone of uncertainty keeps a lot of Florida within that possible landfall region. Anything within this cone is possible. All right, my friends, that's what I got for you for today. I want to say happy birthday to my amazing girlfriend. It is her birthday today, and I'm sure she would love to hear from you guys as well. I want to thank you all for taking the time to watch this video. Shout out to Canada, and I will bring you updates as I get them about this storm, which could be a monster. All right, my friends, I'll talk to you all soon. Take care. Bye-bye. Stop right there, my friends. If you have not already, click that subscribe button and don't forget to hit the bell icon. Click all and you will get all notifications from this channel. And trust me, you won't be disappointed.